Unity Reel with Jackie and Amanda. Feels good to be back since the Netherlands retreat. Jackie, I missed you. I'm so glad that we're doing our lives again.
Me too, totally. Yeah, we kind of went into this in the episode that we recorded a couple days ago that probably you'll hear in February, maybe. Um, but yeah, Amanda was gone for like 9, 10 days. And I was left with my own thoughts, which was good, because I want to make sure I'm not leaning too much on the community and I don't it was just a good reminder for me that yeah, this is a community, but it's a community of one. And I don't need to be talking about I don't need to be having this conversation with these people in order to feel the way that I do when I do have these conversations because I'm only ever really just talking to myself. So that was just a good reminder for me to go inward a little bit. And it was funny, like when we came to record the episode on Wednesday, I was almost like there was a feeling of, oh, but will the inside still be there? Will I still be able to talk? Like I'm out of practice. I felt a little rusty, but that wasn't the case, of course. It's just that that doubt coming back in always. Just constantly coming back to reminding myself that what I think is never the fucking truth. And I'm okay with just myself. But it is great to have Amanda back. And I'm excited to have the groups again starting on Sunday. I'm sure there's a lot to catch up on, especially with the holidays and everything. Yeah, for anybody who celebrated Thanksgiving yesterday, I hope you had a great ish time. you know, I hope you were able to navigate those situations in a seamless way. And it can be a really triggering time for a lot of reasons. So, yeah, just hope everyone had about as smooth of a holiday as they could. And for me, what I realized is that, it's only going to be as smooth as you allow it to be. It doesn't really matter what's actually going on in the room. Like if you could stress yourself out about anything. You could stress yourself out about like, oh my God, I don't think they're gonna like my casserole. And you could be stressed out the whole night about people not liking your casserole or like lying about what they think about your casserole. Or you could tell yourself that, people are only being nice to you because they feel bad for you. Or you could just be there having a conversation and recognizing that it really is just as it is what it is. And it's up to you to determine your state of mind if you're going to let things bother you, if you're going to feed your insecurity with thought, or if you're just going to be there for the experience. So, yeah, I know it can be a tough time for some people, but we made it through.
Absolutely. It was quite the experience to spend time with my family for Thanksgiving after just coming off of a retreat because I was feeling so unattached to the story of Amanda. So I was unattached to my old roles and expectations with my family. So I'm hanging out with them and they're feeling like it's just like before. Like in their head, nothing has changed. I am the same old Amanda. And I'm watching them like talk to me like the story is absolute, like their perception of Amanda is everything, and they're talking to me like that, and I'm just amused to some degree because I'm like, okay, you're doing that and you can do that, has nothing to do with me, but okay, all right, I'm here for it, like because it's happening, it's what was going on in that moment with them, and I just didn't respond like it mattered because it didn't, at least not to me. So families bringing up expectations, or they're making comments about us being together, and I have, over the last few months, I have been very much like in my own little bubble, and I haven't really been chatting with my family too much. And one of my family members brings that up, and I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's absolutely true. I haven't been around. You want to pass the stuffing? like acknowledged what they said. Like, yeah, that is true. I have not been around, and I've been loving it. Let me tell you what I've been up to. I've been working. I'm doing new projects. I am, I just came back from Amsterdam, and so like I just wasn't phased by their unconstructive feedback. It just didn't stick in the way that it used to, and it got dropped, and then it came back, and I did the same thing. I was like, okay, yeah, that's right. um but I'm really glad I'm here now. I'm super happy to be here right now. This is awesome. I'm so happy to be spending time with you guys. And so I just was focusing on what was happening versus a certain drunk family member's opinion on the last time that happened, because I didn't feel like in that moment being like, yeah, phones work two ways, right? Like they didn't get that response from me, because I was just like, I don't care. I don't care if you're not happy with me right now. Like, if you couldn't tell, I don't lose sleep over that opinion. So, yeah, yeah, I just took what they said as an observation that I didn't have to really give much weight to. And so it was interesting how much fun I was having despite like the little guilt trips that the family was trying to drop. And that used to bother me so much. And now I was just like, yeah, yeah, that's true. You're absolutely right. Thank you for the reminder, Uncle X. I really appreciate it. That's why I'm so glad I'm here right now. Now, again, could you pass the stuffing? I feel like we're getting stuck here, and I would really like to eat while you're guilt tripping me. I think I can multitask. What do you think?
I love that. Yeah, because people can't they when they're saying those little spiteful comments or like trying to get a rise out of you, they want the reaction because that within them is coming from a place of hurt or insecurity and they want to throw that back at you and make you feel that way so they can feel like I guess a little bit of a relief so they can feel that you're on their level that I don't know. So it can be really frustrating when people are doing that and you don't let it get to you. You're like cuz nobody can touch or offend you if you're not holding on to an idea of yourself as being this good daughter or good family member who is always there and is selfless and like if you're not attached to these ideas then them pointing these things out it's almost like and what about it and people don't get that and so it can either be really frustrating or it's honestly like most of the time people just stop trying because they realize it's not having the effect that you want and it's funny it always comes back to this like paradoxical situation where actually not reacting, not resisting, allowing is what eventually allows things to stop happening. It's funny. It pops up in so many different situations. Like if you're trying to get a clear mind, you can't try to get a clear mind because the thought of trying is a thought and it's clouding your mind. So it comes back to that completely half-ass backwards principle of just relaxing always seems to be the way to move forward, even though it's not active. It's like you're able to just surrender and then somehow things get easier. So that's always interesting to recognize. Um, but yeah, I think uh, the holidays can be a tough time with that for sure. And yeah, I'll pass it back to you, Amanda. I don't know what I'm saying right now.
Oh, me neither. I don't know. That's why my name today is undecided. I was like, I'm not here to make decisions. This is not decision time. I'm chilling. So, I had a feeling like walking into Thanksgiving that that I haven't been around, and so I kind of knew that that might come up, and I was totally okay with my family potentially expressing their discontentment or their disapproval with how I was choosing to spend my time over the last few months. um, and I was okay with that because I knew that that said more about what they thought about themselves and my relation to their idea of themselves than it did about me. Because, you know, when my family gets annoyed with me, they don't want me around. When they're annoyed with me, they don't miss me. They're not looking for me to call them more. So I was like, when you don't like me, you don't care what I do with my time. But now that you seem to like me again, now you're really concerned with how I spend my time. What is it? Like, are you really concerned? No, I don't think so. I don't think you're actually concerned with how I spend my time. I think you're concerned with the way that I spend my time and how that influences the way that you feel about yourself. But that has nothing to do with me. So I thought it was so funny that it came up. And when it did come up, I was just like, yeah, you know what? It has been a while. You're absolutely right. And that's why this moment is so special. That's why I'm so glad to be here. I was pivoting because I was trying to enjoy the moment that they were criticizing was late. And I was like, as much as you're criticizing the timing of this moment, you're wasting it. So why don't we just enjoy being together right now and not think about the time since the last time we hung out? And that's why I didn't feel a need to be like, well, phones work two ways, right? you know like like you're a straight up hypocrite. Like, I didn't go there because I didn't need to, because I don't have a problem with where things are, and if they do, that's on them. So I was fully ready to be the bad one this Thanksgiving. I'm the spoiled, I'm the rotten apple of the group. Oh, woe is me. I was like, I'll be spoiled, and this spoiled apple is having a great time. And if we might make some, we might switch it up. We might, do a little dancing over here. We might be crack. I was still cracking jokes in between the guilt trips. I was still having fun. I was still keeping it light because I I just wasn't going to hold on to anything that they said. And it felt really nice. This actually was the first holiday that I was able to do that. Every other holiday, it was me trying to fill expectations. Every other holiday, it was me thinking I needed to be something. And this was absolutely the first holiday where I voluntarily walked into what I expected criticism. And it didn't bother me in the way that I thought it would, because I just didn't add any meaning to their criticisms. I didn't agree with it. So when they said those things, I was like, okay, there's a solid point in there. You're right. It has been a while. And it's been a while because both of us didn't reach across the room. And I'm okay with both of us not reaching across the room, because I'm glad that we're closer in the room now.
Yeah, so froze for like the last little bit, but you couple seconds. It could be me. Um Anywho, yeah, it's like you can exist within a moment without participating in like the narratives and ideas that are like swirling about in everybody else's mind. Like you can be grounded in the moment, and when you are, like, people can't push you over because you're not standing up on the stool of illusions of being, the best daughter or sister that you could be. You're just being Amanda, and you're recognizing that, okay, anything that happened in the past I can't change, but this moment is this moment, and that's where your priority is. And anybody else who's dealing in illusions or trying to guilt trip you on that plane, like, actually can't touch you because you're not actively participating in it. You're not investing in that as any sort of measure of objective reality. So, yeah, and you can get through even uncomfortable fucking situations like that, or like what would have been a really uncomfortable situation, by just dancing through it, skating through it. It's wild. So that is the benefit of this conversation. It's not going to fix all the relationships in your life. It's not going to make everything peaceful and sunshine and rainbows all the time, but it will help you take the idea of yourself, the idea of others, and a little bit less seriously, and also like recognize that the present moment is what it is, and I can't, the only thing that I can change right now is my attitude, is my perspective and what I'm investing my attention in. So I don't have to add that weight. And that's truly been the benefit, the only benefit. I think it's just making right now easier to get through, a little bit more peaceful, less weight. And then you can sort of just skate through any situation and be okay. And even though I say that's the only benefit, like that's a huge fucking benefit because you're only ever in the present moment. And so, yeah, just taking everything less seriously is like you can't really go wrong. Like it's kind of a win-win situation because it's less effort and it's oftentimes more benefit. It's the cheat code to life. But we have a question here from Miss Marie. She's wondering if you could share about the retreat in the Netherlands.
Oh,
I
yeah,
didn't go, so Amanda will have to take over on that one.
that it was definitely interesting because it was the largest retreat. The Netherlands retreat had 23 people total, including myself, Andrew, and Ray, and so that was the largest amount. And so every retreat is special in the fact that eh, the people that are showing up to be themselves, to let go of stories, to not stand in the way of being the moment. And so that is a recipe, in my opinion, for just magic. The fact that there were so many people changed it because your attention was spread out so much more. And instead of being able to spend a lot of one-on-one time with people, you were usually in groups of like 4 to 6. So you were always in like little groups. And there were times where you did split off, but it was rarer than in previous retreats. So it didn't feel as intimate just because I was constantly like switching gears and switching my attention. I'd be talking to one person about something, and then the conversation would take a totally different turn, and I'd be chatting with someone else about something totally unrelated, which is good. Um, that was something that was a little bit different. The Netherlands location was incredible, beautiful lands, trails near us, a little lake. So the landscape was fantastic. We still went on group walks like before. We still tripped. We had a chef who was cooking our meals, and so that was lovely. And we were just hanging out, So that was still the same, and that was awesome. And we partied. It felt like a huge party because there was like 23 of us, and I wanted to do a black light dance party, and so I had ordered like tons of decorations, and we put them up on like day 2. So the whole house is like, it looks like a black light warehouse, with like neon stars and neon hearts, and they're taped to the walls, and we put streamers around the lights. We're changing lights to black lights, and so it definitely felt like a party house for sure. And that was fantastic. It felt like an awesome party. And we still did some inner work when you're tripping and when you're not, and you're just reflecting. So people were absolutely doing the work, and some people were not always doing the work, and that's always a possibility. Just because something bubbles up doesn't mean that you're going to want to deal with it, or that you're going to want to not judge it. So, as much as I saw people doing work, I definitely saw people resisting work. And so things split off. And the people that were more prone to control would tense up when we were tripping. And the people that were more prone to relaxing would relax when we were tripping, and vice versa when we weren't tripping. So that was interesting to see. And that happens regardless of size. There's always people that are more likely to want to control a situation, that have an idea about tripping, and then you trip and it doesn't meet your idea, and they don't like that. Or I didn't like that, or I can say when that has happened to me, and it looked like they were not loving that moment when they were resisting and trying to control their trip. So that happens regardless, because for some people it was their first time tripping. So that definitely adds a different layer to the experience if you've never done it before. But overall, I will say that it was wonderful, and I learned a lot. And this was probably the retreat where I personally relaxed the most. And I didn't really, there were certain trips where I just was by myself. And I was just laying in my bed, like covered up. And I was just like, this is fantastic. I'm doing nothing right now. And that's awesome. And I'm sure people are so my room was on the second floor, and I'm like, I'm sure people are freaking out downstairs right now. And that's okay too. Like I didn't feel compelled to like go downstairs and like save them from themselves. I was like, they don't need me. They don't need me. I'm good. They're good. We're good. Everything's good. We're chilling. So that was new. That was something that I really appreciated because I'm always on the go, and I tend to try to find things to do, and I'm always busy. And so to spend a good amount of this retreat doing absolutely nothing for no one was delicious. It was amazing. It was so freaking good. Oh my goodness. Because I don't often do that. And so that's okay that that's my tendency. So it was really refreshing to just not worry, not manage other people, not be in charge of anyone, or not monitor anyone, or not be there, not be space, not listen, not do a damn thing for anyone. Because when we were done tripping and I went downstairs, everybody was still alive. So nobody needed me to be there in the way that I usually will be present for others. And not to say that I won't do that again. It was just really nice that at the largest retreat, I feel like I was the most relaxed. And in that relaxation, I got to see other people being there for themselves. And that was beautiful and inspirational and heartwarming. So it was it was definitely not the retreat I expected. I thought I was going to be way more active. So that was a good surprise. Let me see. Let me check our chat. No, no, no more questions about that. But yeah, that was pretty much my overall personal experience and my observations of the retreat as a whole. Because by the end of it, everybody was like in roaring form for the most part, and I'm so excited to see like the ripples. And it was so funny because we usually have we communicate after the retreats, and we have like a WhatsApp chat, and people were like saying thank you and thank you so much, and they're so grateful. And I said the best thank you that you could give all of us, in my opinion, is to just be yourself. Like the biggest ripple is just you being yourself. And so you don't have to say thank you. If you are yourself and you are relaxed and you're not in your own way, that is the best thank you that you could give all of us, including yourself. Like the words are great, but they're not needed. And although they are appreciated, I just want people to know that the biggest thank you is their life being experienced authentically, their life being enjoyed as fully as possible. So um, I I'm excited to see people, just rippling away and being like tsunamis of change. And so that's what I'm excited. I'm excited to see people doing their thing separate from DU, because it's as much as we are a community, it's very much a community of one. And the time that people spend away from DU, the time that people are not talking to me or anyone, is the most important time, because that's you living your life. That's you applying all these insights. And as juicy as these insights are, they're like taking a bite out of food. And as delicious as the bite is, it's the nutrition absorption that happens after the bite. It's the application that happens after the insight that's more important. So don't get so caught up on the inside high of being at a retreat, because it's how you apply it that's where the real magic happens, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know, because from my experience going to a retreat, it wasn't the Netherlands retreat. I went to Vermont, and it is like an insight high, because I remember shit being so clear when I left that retreat, because I had never been in a space where it was like, "No, I'm not gonna do this for you. Like, I'm here to chat if you want to, but, like, any shit that's going on, that's on you." And not even in like a cruel way. It's not, it's in like a loving way. Lovingly, you can only work through this on your own. And I feel like that's a theme that has been coming up in a lot of the different things we've been talking about today. Like the retreats are definitely one. Interactions with family um is another one. Like you can't do the work for anybody else. And so I love that you were just chillax in this last retreat, because if anybody has been to a retreat, or even if you haven't, you know Amanda works so hard for this community, and like she's in, I know we had a chef this time, but in previous retreats she's always in the kitchen cooking, or like making tea, or setting up little snack platters, or like rallying people together, and like, just really trying to facilitate an environment just for everybody to have like the best possible time. But I love that you're recognizing that, as much as that may be your tendency to, really get active and get in there, um, that's not always what's needed. And in fact, it's taking away from your experience, which is that should be your priority. Because if all of our priorities were ourselves, I think we would all live in a much more peaceful world. I think the conflict and the tension comes from expecting things from other people, and creating these ideas in your head about how they should be, and then feeling some type of way when they surprise aren't that way, because of course they're not, because where did that expectation come from? So, yeah, I just love that you were able to chillax a little bit more this retreat. And yeah, you're inspiring me. Like, I want to like take some mushrooms and just chill in my bed now. Like that sounds so divine, just because we can get so caught up in the idea of like action, because action promises this false sense of control or certainty. And I find myself falling into that all the time. Like, even when I have like a moment to rest, I'm like, okay, well, what could I do that's productive right now? Like, oh, maybe I can do my laundry, or oh, maybe I can sweep or vacuum my room. I could, we always find something to fill that void when we don't have anything to do, because I think deep down we feel this feeling of lack or fear, and we don't like just sitting in the uncertainty with all of this unfinished business, and like we don't think we're good enough right now, and so it's uncomfortable to sit in that, because that means you have to accept who you are and what your life looks like in that present moment. And that can be one of the most difficult things to do, and that's why like we're so against rest in this society, right? It's like, so like go go go, because you're not perfect and you should have an issue with that. It's freaking insane. Like, we put ourselves on this treadmill to nowhere, and then we wonder why at the end of all that we're still unsatisfied. It's because that's what you're reinforcing, is that lack. When you feel that lack and you feel, and then you act on it, you're like solidifying those neural networks in your brain to continue feeling that lack. But yeah, when you're able to surrender, when you're able to allow yourself to let go and rest and just be, like, it's so healing and profound. And I think the more time you spend in that space, the easier it becomes. But it's just so against like the dominant mentality right now that it can really be hard just to relax, even though you would think that relaxation would be the easiest thing to do. It's really not at all.
No, it's definitely not. And I definitely recommend tripping and spending some time on your own, but in your bed, because I felt like I was in like I was cradling myself. Like I felt like I had like the pillow is like engulfing my head, and like I'm like falling into like a little crevice inside the mattress, and the blanket is like almost covering my face, and I just felt like so comfortable and so relaxed and so like I was being cradled. Like I felt like I was in the bosom of the universe, and I was just like snuggling up, and just like loving it, and just loving the lack of activity that was happening, the lack of interaction, the lack of exchanges, even though it felt like I was exchanging with reality, and or maybe not exchanging, but like I was just open to it, and it felt like we we're relaxing. And we hadn't done that in a long time. And it felt overdue in many ways. So I'm really glad that I got that experience because I felt guilty. Like, so I'm coming up on the trip and I think, oh, I shouldn't go to my room. That's not, what are we running from? Are we running from intimacy with the group? Are we running from connection from the group? Like, where I came to this retreat to be with other versions of reality, other people. And me spending my time tripping by myself isn't engaging with them. And it's like, but it is. The time that you spend alone is just as important in your relationship as the time you spend with people that you're in relation to. So spending that time alone was something for all of us. We all experienced my time away from what felt like other people. And it's funny because somebody else at another retreat had said, like, had felt guilty for pulling away from the group and during their trip. And I had said to them, like, you dealing with your shit is the best thing you do for the group, for yourself. So when you pull away to deal with your shit, that is a gift you're giving to yourself and all of us. So I don't want you to feel guilty for pulling away because you want to process something without an audience or without a cheerleading squad behind you or or a life coaching group behind you. Sometimes you want to process on your own because that's how you're processing. That's what your process looks like in that moment. It's solitary. And solitary doesn't mean that you're avoiding others. So I got to tell myself that, and that was awesome. So then I went upstairs and I laid down and I was like, this is amazing. I can't believe I almost guilt tripped myself into not doing this. Like, what the hell, Amanda? Like, this is just as important as spending time and listening to someone else in their trip. They're equally valuable. So I highly recommend that when you're tripping with a group of people, that you be mindful that you might have an expectation that your trip is supposed to be shared in every way with the group that you're tripping with, and that's not always the case. And thankfully it didn't turn dark, because let's say another scenario, I could have went to my room by myself and we could have went down a dark despair. We could have went down a dark alley of despair, like, so being by myself also could have went horribly wrong, or not horribly wrong, but it could have felt incredibly unpleasant. And I was ready for that just as much. And we would have dealt with that in the way that we would have dealt with it. So it's not to say that tripping by yourself will lead to this kind of feeling, but it's really nice when it does. And I look forward to other people enjoying that solitary time, even when the option to be with other people is there. You don't have to do anything. So just listen to yourself. You know what you need. You know where you need to be, and other people don't have to understand that. Just listen to yourself, and if you need to change after you make that decision, then change it, then go back to the group, then connect with them again. But there's no one size fits all when it comes to tripping. It's a very much case by case, and I mean moment by moment. You're figuring that out. It is unfolding, and you're deciding in every moment what it could be. But you can always change it.
Yeah, and I think from my experience, the times when those negative, scary trips start to happen are when you aren't listening to the signals that your body is giving you, and you have an idea about how the trip should be going. Like, if you listen to yourself being and listen to the thought that was saying, "Oh no, like you're here to trip with other people. You're here to interact. You're not always going to be around these people, so you need to be around them now as much as you can." Like, if you listen to that thought, maybe shit would have gone down. Maybe it would have been really overwhelming, or maybe you would have freaked somebody else out. you know, you never know. Um, and I think and that happens because I think we're always interacting with ourselves. Like, even if we are with other people, we're experiencing our interpretation of the other person. And so, e whether we're alone with other people or alone physically, I guess, um, it's always just us interacting with ourselves. And so therefore, um, listening to that is the best thing, that listening to your intuition, if it's telling you, okay, this isn't the vibe right now. And like you said, on a moment to moment basis, that can change. You don't have to decide, oh, in this trip I want to be alone because I think I need to go inward. And then you go do that and maybe you have a good experience, but then you start to be like, okay, well, I wonder what's going on downstairs. You don't have to like double down and be like, no, there's more in here that I'm just, you're telling yourself like you're not willing to see it. But no, you can change your mind at any point. It's just about sensitivity to what the moment calls for, and like living in that gray area can be tough because again, we're clinging to that certainty. We want to believe that like the way we're approaching this situation is the objective best way to be approaching the situation, because that makes us feel like it's going to be safe and it's going to be okay, even though I am going through all this uncertainty that you're just bound to go through when you're tripping. um but yeah, I think you can surrender to your deeper self, like the self, not the idea of yourself, but to like the truth of how you're feeling, the truth of what you need in that moment. You can surrender to that. And I think when you just allow yourself to fall into that sort of mode, things just kind of work out. Like, and if they're not, you pivot, you adjust, and then you can regain that balance. And yeah, I like what you said to Amanda about like being with reality and sort of just feeling held. Cause that's kind of how I've been feeling recently. Like the more I let go, I expect shit to go wrong, but it doesn't. And so that is just a reminder to me that there is this intelligence going on. There is, and it's not like Sky Daddy God. It's not somebody looking out for me. It's me looking out for me. It's the reality of what I am. And you can experience this even physically. Like I like to do meditations where I just lie on the floor and I relax my entire body, like from my feet all the way up my legs, my torso, my arms, even like my eyeballs, like letting them relax into my skull and just let go. And it's like, okay, I'm not holding it all. And reality is holding me together. Like I'm still here. I'm still here regardless of how I feel about it and how many ways I want to control my life or the outcomes. Like at the end of the day, it's just going to happen how it's going to happen. And so it's so beautiful to find that like, oh yeah, all this tension that I thought I needed to carry for my life to turn out okay, I can let go of it. I can let go of it. It's an option. And up until like 2 years ago, that wasn't even fucking on the table. It was like, okay, how do I control myself the right way? And now all of that is just kind of funny to me. Um, just knowing that I can never know. I can never know with certainty the reality of this moment or the impact I'm having. Like, even if I am trying to control everyone else's experience while we're tripping, I don't know the effect I'm actually having. And if I'm scattering myself and my energy in doing that, like, most likely I'm causing more harm than good by trying to get in there and control things when, like you said, like, you can take time for yourself, and when you come back, people are still alive because everyone is just as capable as of taking care of themselves as anyone else. Like, we don't need to feel the need to help other people and like control their frame of mind or control their experience, because that's us doubting them. What's truly loving and demonstrating faith in yourself and faith in others, which is the same thing. When you're demonstrating that, like, you don't need to get involved. And people will figure it out. And that's in fact the only way they can learn to figure it out on their own is if you're not doing it for them. And so that just requires surrendering to, I don't want to say a larger consciousness, or I don't know. It's bigger than just Jackie, but it also includes Jackie and it includes everyone and everything else. And that's sort of what I am envisioning God to be now. It's just what is. So,
Absolutely. It's funny when I would hear the description, God is everywhere, but not in me. Somehow, motherfucker gets around, but just doesn't live inside this body and this mind and heart and soul and spirit. I don't know. He's somewhere else. He's everywhere but within me. And it's like I I'm starting to, I at least appreciate more and more how me isn't just the idea of me, isn't just Amanda. I was driving on the highway the other day and I was appreciating just the drive, and I was like, man, this whole moment is this highway. It's me within this car, and the car is driving and the car is moving and it's on the road and it's other cars and it's the mountains and it's the trees, and it's like this whole moment is everything that I can see and everything that I can't. So it feels like if there is God or reality or the moment, it's all inclusive, man. There's no way that it could be this but not that. Like, it just logically, it doesn't make any sense to me. How could God create everything but not be everything? And I was like, yeah, but what are his building materials? Is he just outsourcing to some like universal warehouse of materials and is like, put in another order for humans? I'll need another 2.45 billion, delivered to this particular rock. And like, he's not out. Like, it's hilarious that if there is a God creating things, that it wouldn't be also a part of, like, that he or she or they or God wouldn't be all of the materials that they're building from. And so it feels like that's just another word for reality or the moment, and the moment feels like it's all inclusive. It's everything I can see and everything that I can't. It's everything is everything. That logically makes sense to me on some level. Everything is everything. Okay, that's easy. So that means that nothing is also included in that everything. Like, so, like, because doing nothing also feels like something. So when I was laying in the bed and I was doing what I would have called nothing, that is something. It's all inclusive in the everything is everything. Existence is existence. Reality is everything you can see and everything you can't, everything you think you understand and everything you don't even know you don't know about. So it feels, I cried when I was on the highway when I was driving because it felt so full. It felt so incredibly full that my moment wasn't mine. It was everything, and everything is shared because how could it not be shared? It's all of us. And so um I I'm appreciating my appreciation of just everything as I can perceive it. And I also appreciate what I don't know, because that was a big thing for me, was that I thought that if I could understand things, I could control them. And now I know that I never controlled anything, and I never understood anything in the context that I thought I did, because I just had a perception, and I took that perception as understanding. So it's been humbling, if nothing else, letting go of this desire to know, and by knowing, controlling.
yeah, I think it's so beautiful. And once again, it reminds me that I'm held, that I've never had certainty. I've never had control. And yet I'm here. And like the world has taken care of me, like as myself, but also as the other people around me. Like my family is me, and they've taken care of me even when I wasn't able to, I guess, take care of myself in terms of me being Jackie. It gets confusing when I'm using me and like all these different layers. Um, so Yeah, but that's funny. What you were saying really brought up the distinction that we make between living and non-living things, and like some things having consciousness and other things not having consciousness. And that's something that I've run across a lot in the yoga world too. It's like namaste, they'll be like namaste, like I recognize the divine light in me and you and all living things. But like just living things? Like where are you drawing that line between alive versus not alive? Like there's no separation. Like even if you break it down to the smallest bits, like I guess cells are the smallest unit of life. Like that's what people call it, but cells are made of non-living materials. They're made of molecules, and yet somehow the molecules intelligently combine to form a cell, and then the cells combine to form a tissue that has its own level of consciousness, and then that tissue forms an organ that has its own level of consciousness, and then there's organ systems, and then it creates a human being that is conscious in its own way. But every we're conscious on even an anatomical level. And that's the whole universe. Like this is a closed system. There's no alive particles and non-living particles. And also that's just settling on a certainty of us like knowing what life is, like what is alive versus what's not alive. Like we have an idea about what that means, but it is very much blurry and it's all a gray area. And of course it would be because everything is a gray area, but like when you think about it like that then your individual consciousness and experience is not separate at all. Like it is, you changing is the whole changing because you are not separate. The only way you are is conceptually. So even if you think you're being selfish, you're doing what's best for part of the whole, you know? So uh that's just wild to think about. Like where that distinction lies, and people just almost take that for granted, I think. Like they like there's so many things that like we fall back on, these assumptions that we just don't question. We're like, yeah, that thing looks alive, so it's alive. And it's different from that rock over there. That rock clearly isn't alive. And yet we have the same minerals or whatever that are in that rock, like in us, required to sustain our human body. So it's obviously part of this living system. Oh, it's just wild. But really, like consciousness is all pervasive. God is all pervasive, and not God in the way we think about it. Like just God in whatever is whatever organizing principle or intelligence is putting the bits together in the way that it is. Spanned out throughout eternity. Like this is just God's imagination at play.
And I love that. I love it. Imagination at play. Um, and play has no agenda, right? When you were a kid and you were coming up with games on the playgrounds, like there wasn't okay, so we're gonna play Foursquare for about 45 minutes, and then we're gonna switch to a freeze tag, and we'll do freeze tag for about maybe 2 hours. But we've been playing a little too much dodgeball, so we're gonna pin that for next week. Like play never had an agenda. It was never, it had to be something. It was, we decided in that moment what the play was going to be. We were just that potential expressed. And it was wonderful because nobody was hanging on too much to what it should be. And when they were, they usually were ejected out of the group. Like if any one of us kids were like became like a little dictator, that dictator got ejected from the group. It was like, you get all that out of here, please. We are playing a fun game of freeze tag, and you need to freeze all that bullshit. I mean, we didn't say it in those words, but we certainly felt that way, and we just we didn't make space for it. We didn't make space for agendas and for things to be a certain way. It was very much a group decision, and it was based on a group feeling that was shared. And so I love thinking now, like play has no agenda. It's like, holy shit, play has no agenda. There is nothing that has to be done in any particular order. It is just whatever we want it to be, and it can change at any moment because it is always changing. It's just that I copy and paste things so fast that I don't think the change is happening, just because I'm seeing the same option getting repeated over a certain chunk of time. And because I'm copy and pasting it so fast, I think that there is no change happening because the moment looks similar, but it's not identical. Even going to the same supermarket that I go to every time I need to go grocery shopping, although the experience seems very similar, it is not identical. Even if I leave my house at the same time, get into the same car, drive the same street, walk through the same door into the supermarket, buy the same things, just because the moment looks similar, remember that it is not identical. Every moment is brand new, even if you make it look very similar to the last moment. It's still brand new. You're still different. And everything in that moment has the potential to change into something else. But I often confuse similarity with identical, with something being identical.
Yeah, I think one of the first big realizations I had, like, back in 2020, was that no matter what, like, even if you try to stay the same, no moment ever is identical. No single day on earth has gone the same as it ever would. And, like, even if you were trying to, like, control everything, you can't help but change. Because even if you do the same things, you experience them a little bit differently, or you feel differently, and therefore the experience provides different context. And so you don't have to worry about growth happening, because I think I can tell myself often that I'm stagnating, or I'm not getting anywhere, or not growing fast enough. And that control is just so unnecessary, because change is inevitable. Change is, you can't escape it. No matter what, you're going to keep growing. You're going to keep learning. So all you have to do is just stick around. Like, that's really it. Like, stick around and do what you feel like doing in the moment, and trusting, like, your own intuition as the intuition of the whole. Like, you don't need to look outside of yourself for somebody to tell you what to do, because the wisdom of the whole universe is you. You know, like, you're the product of billions of years of evolution. So why do you think, like, what you feel like doing, or what you think is the next best move, isn't? And that's even further emphasized when you realize, like, even if you do make a decision and it feels wrong in the moment, like, that's still the way that it happened. And it's going to continue to play out and ripple through the rest of your life and everyone else's life. And you never really know the true impact of that event. And so there's no point in judging and trying to control every little step of the way. Like, that really just takes the fun out of it. Yeah, like the kid on the playground who's trying to control everyone gets rejected. The freaking person who rage quits because they lose, nobody wants to hang out with them. And then eventually they have to learn that relaxation is the way to really take full advantage of the time to play on the playground, but also just the time that we're here. Like, the best thing that you can do for your experience is just to relax and lean in. And by lean in, I mean participation without the need to control or predict the outcome, because you can't. But yeah, as long as you're participating and just making the decision that you make in the present, which is the only place you ever are, like, you're fine. And you're going to continue to exist in the present, and things will continue to just fucking work themselves out. Because of course they would. Like, we are held. We are here, and we put so much pressure on ourselves to know the right way to be. But I think we do know, I guess, the way to be, but it's just not on the level of thought. It's on the level of um, emotion, maybe not emotion, just like gut feelings, intuition. Like, your body holds so much wisdom, and we second guess that so hard. So it's like, if you need a rest, rest. If you feel like you have this burst of energy and you want to put it out there and harness it and create something, then do that. But like, you don't need to create a narrative on top of that about where that's taking you or what it means about you. Like, all of that extra shit is unnecessary, and that's where the suffering comes from. Otherwise, we are just playing and rolling with what comes. Like, you think about kids on the playground, they don't, they might take shit seriously in a moment, but kids get over shit fast. Like, you could get into a fight with a kid on the playground, and they can be tears and there can be tantrums, and then 20 minutes later the kid waddles back in and like eats a snack, and then they're fine again, and everybody else like also welcomes them back in because they're not holding on to a narrative of like, oh, that kid's a loser, that kid isn't a good sport. Like, kids don't really do that as much. And I think that continues to, the pressure builds as we maintain more ideas of ourselves and others as we get older, I think. And so then there is so much pressure on every little move you make. But there doesn't have to be, when you realize you're the only one holding on to it. And even when other people hold on to it, it doesn't have to matter to you, because you don't have to take on that weight. And it really is so liberating to recognize that, yeah, I don't know, but shit's working out.
It's always working out, and we're always participating. So whether I am active or passive, that is my contribution to the moment. Whether I am speaking or silence, the person that is speaking the most at a dinner table is contributing just as much as the person who doesn't want to say a word. So regardless to your opinion of your contribution, you are always contributing to the moment. You are always participating, and it's there's an opportunity to pay attention, and the more you pay attention, the in my opinion, the more sensitivity you can develop, because in my opinion, sensitivity and attention are the same thing. The more attention I pay, the more sensitive I am. The more sensitive I am, the more attentive I tend to be. So it's just looking at how you're contributing to the moment that you're in, not to judge it, but just to see what's happening. Regardless of my opinion, am I even aware of what's happening? And as I'm aware, oh, okay, well, that's happening, and I don't want to go in that direction. So we're gonna go over here, and we pivot and we change. So it's just realizing that you're always participating in the moment, because you are the moment. There's no way that you can't participate. It's just that I had such a harsh, very black and white perspective on participation. Participation was active, it was involved, it was visible, it was acknowledged, it was verified, not realizing that the moments where I was passive was me That was my processing of the moment. That was my expression. That was my moment, was being passive. That was my contribution, was being passive, was being silent, was not chatting with people. So I think it's important to, or at least in my opinion, it's important to just pay attention. Just pay attention to what's happening. And the sensitivity is there, because it's very rare to have a moment that I'm paying attention to that I don't feel anything for. And not to say that like my feelings are the most important. It's just that, it's very rare that when I'm attentive, I'm also not sensitive to the moment that I am. It seems very hard to separate those two, because they feel like two sides of the same coin, which and the coin in this analogy is just reality. It's the moment. It's what's here. And I like thinking about wrong choices or bad choices. And and in my opinion, now there is no such thing as a bad choice, because let's say we give it a specific example. I used to date the same kind of guy, and I used to judge that I wasn't learning, or I wasn't picking the right person. I was making the wrong choice. I was dating the wrong person. And then I came to a point in my life where I realized, okay, instead of judging the choice, why don't we take a look at what's driving the choice? Why don't we take a look at where that choice is coming from? And instead of it being the wrong choice, it was a moment of an opportunity to learn. And so I'm so glad that I dated the wrong men a few times in a row, because then I got to see why I felt comfortable picking that person, or that that similar person. Why did I feel comfortable picking that kind of person versus someone else who wasn't my type? And I picked that guy because I felt safe. That was familiar. That person reminded me of something that I thought I could handle. And so that's why I tended to pick that same kind of guy. And now it's not that I am opposed to considering dating that kind of guy again. It's just that there's no desire. That person doesn't catch my attention in the same way, because I'm different. And so because I'm different now, I'm making different choices. And that choice is coming from a different place. So all those wrong men, all those wrong choices were opportunities to learn why I wanted to make that particular choice. And so, in my opinion, now there is no such thing as the wrong job, the wrong partner, the wrong hobby, because it's only wrong because you're judging it because you think that you should be something else. And that's why you think that that choice is wrong, that person is wrong, is because you think that there's a version of you that should be picking something else. And instead of you thinking about what should be, just look at what's happening, and what's inspiring that particular choice. And you can learn about what's inspiring it and where's that coming from. And I'm really grateful. I did a shout out when I had this realization for the first time, and I was like, thank you to all the shitty boyfriends I've ever had, because you guys gave me an opportunity to learn something about why I was comfortable in that particular scenario. So thank you so much, because I couldn't have learned it if you weren't emotionally absent. I couldn't have learned it if you weren't um, just doing things the way that you did it. And so I'm really grateful. And even the family members and things like in the past, I'm like, no, I'm glad. Thank you for being a pain in my ass, because I got to see why I thought that you should be different, or why I should be different. And when I accepted that I could be different, that I wasn't stuck in the wrong choice pattern, things felt light again. And I felt like I wasn't just stuck. I felt fluid, and I felt light. And so now we choose differently because we're different, and we're only different because we didn't think that we needed to be this way. We just happened to become this way. And we're constantly changing. So I'm excited. I'm just excited to just appreciate things as they are. And so that's why now it's so trippy, because now I feel like I don't want anything to be different. Like everything as it is perfect, right? And so I never would have thought that at 20. I would have been like, by 31 we would have a more established career, we would most likely be married, we might have kids. And so I thought that by this age I'm supposed to have these things, and I have none of those things, and I've never been happier. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like I don't need anything to change. Like no partner, no kid, no kids, no pets. I spend a lot of my time by myself, and I'm like, this is fantastic, this doesn't have to change. And when an opportunity comes where things could change, things could look differently, if I feel like taking that step, I will. But I don't feel like I need to get there any sooner, because I'm really appreciating that everything just is, and I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah. It's crazy how we judge ourselves for the decisions we make, like being like, "Oh, well, past me should have been different." Obviously, past me should have known. It's like you only know what you know now because past you didn't know it and had to go through some shit. Like that's literally the most pointless train of thought ever, and it still just comes down to an avoidance of the present. It still comes back to an avoidance of the uncertainty of our lives, because that judgment is coming from the assumption that you know what should have happened, what would have been a better case scenario, and what the present moment should like now, what it should look like now, when that's obviously not how it is. And so you're putting all this effort into just denial of the reality that no, you're just here now. Things are completely uncertain, and you can act however you want in the present moment. But it can be really hard for us to accept that fucking responsibility. But wow, yeah, no, I totally agree with you now. Like the more and more I lean into the uncertainty and accept it and know that it's going to be fine, it's like everything just is perfect. And it's like even if I do make an expectation, which I feel like I'm making a lot less expectations these days. Like I find myself going into moments and where beforehand I would have been stressing and like thinking about all the hypothetical ways it would go. Like I just don't do that anymore because I know it's pointless. And so like when I show up to something, I can really like appreciate the beauty and just be like, wow, like it's magnificent how this all just fell into place in front of me. And it's so cool that I get to experience this. And yeah, it just really allows you to like appreciate life and really feel it and be in it rather than just trying to like cope with it and numb and tell yourself that you're good and you're doing things the right way. Cuz that's not really what we want. It's what we want to feel, the whole spectrum, and that's not always pleasant, but it's beautiful. That's where the enjoyment of life can really come in, is when you're present. And I think we we can miss our whole lives by living in this world of ideas and expectations and judgments. And that's why people like look back on previous times of their life and they're like, I didn't even see what I had. I took that for granted. And you're doing that now by looking back as well. It's like all you can do is what you can do right now. Everything else beyond that is a waste of energy, or it's just taking away from your experience. And it's not about regretting that. It's not about beating yourself up for the time that you haven't been present. It's just you're here now. Can you live with it? So, yeah, well, we're a little bit over time now. This was a great conversation though. Um yeah, just really coming back to responsibility and faith, just not even in anything, just in what is. And then that includes yourself, that includes other people. And the best thing that you can do for everyone involved is relax, pay attention, be yourself, raise Holy Trinity, and have faith that in the same way shit has always worked out when there was no certainty, it will continue to work out. And Yeah, so thanks for tuning in to this episode of Do You Real? I believe this is episode 4. Woohoo! Booyah! I want to give a quick shout out to Rainer for this beautiful microphone he gifted me. And it was so cool being able to see you when you came to San Diego. We had like our own little mini retreat. It was amazing. But yeah, thank you for this crispy audio. It's brought to you by Rainer. Just wanted to say that. Appreciate you. And yeah, I hope wherever you are in the world that you're letting yourself relax just a little bit more.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This has been an excellent chat. Way to get back into the live real episodes. And we are going to be getting back into the Patreon groups this Sunday. And so please join us if you can. If not, there is the free public Zoom on Wednesday of next week. Schedule will be back to normal. The guys will be back in town. So thanks for joining us, everybody. And I look forward to next time. I love you all.